The mother of all Giuliettas, the Grandmama, is now very popular, although very rare among collectors. We accompany the Alfa expert and collector Harmat Stoppel and the new Giulietta in search of the original Giulietta in the Italian Piedmont. Here in small villages and hidden away from the cities, he's hoping for a find.
The vehicle should be from the late 50s and wherever possible in a very, very good original unrestored condition. And I have an indication from one or two contacts here in Italy that in this region, here in Piedmont, that there are still some examples of these vehicles around.
One has to be a real expert on the scene and have excellent contacts. For over 20 years, he's worked intensively with the brand and in this way has got to know the beauty of Italy.
Sensationally beautiful here.
Oh, look at this.
Super.
Well, I wonder now, where do we find the Giulietta?
I hope there in front of the barn.
Here at this one?
Well, here in Italy, you never know where the old cars can be found.
Yes.
Always speak as many people as go to people and try to bring in a lot of experience about the collectors who are resident here in the village.
Okay.
And who knows, we might get lucky and find the Giulietta which we need in that small village here.
Often Hartmut Stoppel drives from village to village to get the last almost pristine vintage cars from barns. Although there are still well-preserved cars in Germany, but to have an historic Alfa with Italian papers in the hand makes for a special appeal and adds value. In the village of Carisio, he meets a friend and colleague.
Allora, in effetti cerchiamo una Alfa Romeo vecchia, sa, quelle delle antiche macchinine.
Yes, I've had one in the garage for a couple of years.
Yes?
Yes.
He has some.
Can he show us, maybe?
You would like to see it? Come on in.
Good. Paolo has a large network in Italy and gives them both hope.
How many years has he had it already? Ah, how long has he owned it? Do they know that, possibly?
This Alfa Romeo is rare.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
We have here before us a very nicely preserved example of an Alfa Romeo GT 1300 Junior built in 1973. With a wonderfully tidy engine bay. 1.3-litre double overhead camshafts. The overall condition of the vehicle is actually pretty sensational, and it becomes harder and harder to find cars in this state. A beautiful car, but unfortunately not a Giulietta.
Yes, it is really beautiful. But is there an old Giulietta nearby?
Does he perhaps have a collector colleague? Does he perhaps have a friend who has a Giulietta?
Do you know someone who has an old Giulietta?
Yes, of course I know someone who lives close who might. It's quite close.
Yes. He can take us there.
Shall I take you there?
Can he take us there?
Let's go.
Oh, super.
Paolo seems to want to make it exciting, and this time he shows both of them a fine specimen in original condition. However, a Giulia. Certainly a beautiful sight, but we want to finally merge the two generations of the Giulietta. Hartmut Stoppel pulls out all the stops and draws another tip out of his friend. With the new Giulietta, we drive into a gorgeous courtyard in Piedmont. And again, protective tarpaulin is removed. Open sesame, and out slides a dream in powder blue. It's the old lady Giulietta from the 1950s.
That's great. At first glance, the perfect car. Just the right color. We finally found the right model, the grandmother of our red Giulietta. And even if I look at the front of the vehicle, a much nicer chrome trim. The striking kidney in the middle, which we see today, is a stylistic element again in the new Giulietta. Very, very great detail. Here too, behind the lovingly designed Giulietta logo, here we can clearly see that this is a TI, or the International Tourer, which means the more sportive version with the increased performance, with the tachometer inside. This is therefore not a normal Giulietta Berliner, which we are dealing with, but it's the sport sporty version, the TI version, and that makes this car really something very special. Down here under the steering wheel we see the handbrake, for the time a very typical arrangement in this position, and there under the instruments we can see the individual operating units for light, choke, windscreen wipers, handle positioned favorably. Today we would say ergonomically. And what we see here, right of the steering column, is the selector lever for the transmission. This model is equipped with a steering wheel gear shift. These have completely disappeared from today's cars. And as an extra, there was a floor shift. But at the time, it didn't bother the sporty driver if the gear was here or in the steering column. This bothered no one. And today, I think it's very, very charming, an extraordinary feature of this series.
And then mother and daughter take a short ride together for the first time.
Here we have two cars next to each other and we can compare them very well. First of all, the size, the dimensions of the old Giulietta in comparison to the new Giulietta. The dimensions have increased also with modern requirements such as safety and comfort. One drives much longer distances today and must travel long distances. So you're happy when you have a certain comfort and the lowest possible fuel consumption. And yet there are similarities between the two cars. As well as from today's standards, a style icon, we have in the middle the so-called scudetto, the kidney, up here the slight bulge, and we find the same interpreted in a modern way in the new Giulietta. Very striking in the middle. Also with the top of the arch over it. Yeah, what else can I say? The completely modern interpretation of the old Giulietta theme.
The version introduced in 1957, the TI, was particularly performance-oriented. With its driving performance, it was capable of taking on much larger calibers, and Alfa secured an enthusiastic audience. The Giulietta mediated plenty of sporty feel without sacrificing a familiar experience. The necessary safety cushion was provided by a track-sure suspension, which didn't give hot-blooded pilots insoluble problems. Although the shape of the Giulietta Berliner did not seem quite as elegant as the coupe, for the clientele that hardly bothered. The middle-class four-door was sold more than 130,000 times. However, fine examples have become rare.